Hello, my friends, and welcome to After the Coffee. And if it's after the coffee, it is hump day. Yes, by close of business today, we will be halfway through our week. And I hope that you're doing well, that you're accomplishing those things that matter most in your personal life and in your business life. So important that we plan. Now, on Monday Morning Cup of Joe, we were talking about happiness. That's been a big buzzword for, well, at least since the pandemic and probably before. Now, I shared with you that I had began studying the science of happiness back in 1990 after attending an ASTD convention in Anaheim, California. And I met C.W. Metcalf, who wrote the book and created a video series called Humor, Risk, and Change. And then I had the opportunity to attend a lecture or two by the legendary Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who was studying flow state, but with the purpose of happiness. That when we're in flow, it creates a neurological cocktail of various endorphins, dopamine, that are released by our limbic brain, where the amygdala plays a role among other centers of the brain. And I don't want to get too technical into that, but know that our emotions are fleeting. Now, I know that some of us may have lost a loved one, and the emotion of grief stays with us for a very long time. I get that. I've experienced that myself. I totally understand. And one of the things that we grapple with is, will we ever know happiness again? I want you to consider for a moment that happiness is an emotion, right? It's a feeling that we get. What if I told you that happiness is also a skill? It's a learned skill. It's our ability to access joy in adverse environments or experiences in life. Look, we know as a fact of life that we are going to have our ups and we're going to have our downs. And without that dichotomy, we might not appreciate happiness as much if we didn't have the pain of grief and suffering. The contrast is what brings happiness and our appreciation for it, that our value for it. As I said on Monday, if we were happy all the time, well, it may not be all that joyful. It's unrealistic. It doesn't make sense. So we know for a fact that we're going to experience adversity in our life, but we can access joy and happiness during some of the most difficult times by simply focusing in on those things that, when we think about them, makes us smile. The smile is the first indicator of something happy is going to happen or is happening. Yeah, it can be anywhere from, having your favorite pet by your side, you're petting your cat or playing with your dog. Simple things. Now, look, I grew up in a very, very simple culture. The idea of riches and extravagance was not a part of our vocabulary or even within our ethos. We had a very basic, I had a very basic experience growing up. And there was an abundance of happiness in that. Money does not bring happiness. It might alleviate some of the pain, but it's not responsible for real happiness. We would go out into the back 40 and play in a mud puddle as kids, Now, if you do that, hey, if you do that as an adult, that's probably not a bad idea either, because you release that memory of that child within you. And as something as simple as a mud puddle could bring you tremendous joy and happiness. I know it's oversimplified, but the truth is that we need to understand the reality of the ebb and flow of grief and happiness because they are a part of life. To appreciate the difficult times allows us to appreciate the moments in which we are happy. We just have to manage that and understand the skills involved can be things like I had briefly mentioned on Monday, a gratitude list. Do you have a gratitude list? Have you written down? I don't care how many items are on there. The amount of items is not important. It's that you can create a list of things that bring you joy in being alive. I'd mentioned for a moment, when was the last time you spent any amount of time being in this world, just loving it? The smell of fresh air, the sound of a waterfall, sound of leaves ruffling in the soon-to-be autumn breeze. When do we take time to appreciate the small things that are capable of, yes, bringing us joy and bringing us happiness? We need to make a practice of it. This is the skill of happiness, is committing time to an activity every day, maybe even multiple times a day, that bring you joy. Calling someone who is dear to you that you have not talked to in a long time, and just out of the blue say, you know what? I was thinking about you. You're my happy place. Or part of it. These are practices that we can mindfully conduct on a daily basis. Look, we all have a to-do list. We all have check the email, check the voicemail, all the other things that go into our daily to-do list, our daily ritual. Make some type of activity focused on something that will generate happiness, even if it's momentary. That gratitude list, or perhaps I always start my mornings with a type of meditation for being grateful, for knowing that I have people in my life whom I love, and some of them love me back. Look, we could love and appreciate people that may not even know us, right? We listen to their podcasts. We watch their videos on YouTube because they fulfill us. They don't know us. These are all practices that will allow us to maintain an equilibrium to the pressures that life bring upon us. It's the economy, it's the political environment, it's the community, whatever it might be. We have to train our brains to focus on those things that are good in our life. Now, look, our brain plays against us in this. It's trying to protect us. It's trying to keep us safe, trying to keep us from harm. So it has a tendency to focus on the negative things. Stay away from that. Don't do that. Right? It's true. Our brains are programmed to do that, to keep us safe, to prolong the existence of our species. And that means keeping us alive. It doesn't inherently allow us to experience happiness. But I think we'd all agree that happiness and the experience of happiness is important for us to be able to handle the difficulties of life and to truly enjoy our existence while we have the time that we have. So I'm gonna ask you, please, please take time to practice happiness. Think of those things that when you think about them, you smile. Now, we may not have a huge amount of happiness or joy experience as children. Some of us lived in very difficult environments, but we still have those moments where we did feel happy and content and fulfilled. I think for me, that's more important than happiness is that sense of fulfillment, accomplishment. I even shared with you that sometimes when I feel the worst is when I make it a point to go and help someone else. I worked at the Boys and Girls Club for a few years, and we had an event where we had children that had Down syndrome come to the facility. And before it happened, I was like, oh, those poor kids, it's just not fair that they have this disability. And when they came in and I ran a stickball tournament because it doesn't require a ton of motor skills. And some of these kids struggle with that. And we played and we had so much fun. They were laughing and just having a ball. They were running the bases and high-fiving on their third strike. And I looked at them and I realized which one of us really had a disability? Why could not I find that level of joy in a simple activity where these kids could? I was humbled and I lived to every time they came out to play. I loved the fact that they would just run up and hug me and say, hey, coach, let's play ball. They gave me a gift. And I am forever grateful for that. These are the moments that I'm talking about. These are the moments that we really, truly, honestly need to embrace and keep in our memories so that when we feel that there are difficult times, we can draw on those and we don't feel quite so bad. So please practice happiness. It's a skill to create things in your life that are fulfilling and make you happy. And that's after the coffee, my friends. Actually, that there is no such thing as really after the coffee. I enjoy my coffee on a regular basis, and I hope you do too, or whatever drink that you enjoy. But I want to send you into the weekend with the idea of practicing happiness. That happiness is not only an emotion that we experience, but if we wish to continue to experience on a regular basis to keep us up above our game, is that it is a skill that needs to be practiced. And until next Monday on Monday Morning Cup of Joe, be happy, my friend.